is Ifoma Bandele. I'm going to be going over the axial skeleton. I'm going to start with the cranial bones, which is in the skull. I'll go over it in detail. This is the frontal. Right here you have the parietal, and I'll turn my skeleton. This is the occipital right here, and this is the external occipital tuberance right here. What is it used for? It is the highest point, which is referred to as the union. It's the highest point, which is referred to as the inion. Now I'm going to go over the temporal part of my skeleton. I'll go over the external view in detail. I'll turn it over so you could see. The external view, I'm going to be starting with the temporal mandibular joint. The temporal mandibular joint is right here. The mastoid joint, the mastoid process, this is the mastoid process. And this is the styloid process here. And the external acoustic meatus. This is the external acoustic meatus right here. And this is the squamous part right here. I'm gonna go over the internal part of the skeleton. The internal view, the petrous part and the temporal bone, which is found inside the skull of the skeleton, and what structures are housed in that part of the temporal. The hard part of the temporal bone located in the floor of the cranial cavity, and the internal acoustic meatus, which is found inside the skull of the skeleton. What passes through this opening? The opening on the posterior medial surface of the petrous part of the temporal bone. This is the sphenoid. This is the sphenoid right here. And the external view, which is also known as the greater wings. The superior orbital fissure is right here. And what passes through this opening are the lacrimal nerve, the frontal nerve, the trochlear nerve, and the superior and inferior division. I brought my skeleton down so I could show you a better image of the internal part of the skull. So I'm going to start. This is the lesser wing right here, and right here this is the greater wing, and the optical canal is right here inside the eyes. And what passes through that opening is the cranial nerve and the lacrimal nerve. And the sella turcica. The sella turcica, it's right here. And the structure that sits in this fossa is called the swaddle. The saddle. And the ethmoid is inside the nose, right here. This is the internal view of the ethmoid right here, and the gas and the crystal galley is right here. What does this do? This is where the flex cerebra attaches to the anterior to the skull, and this is the creep plate right here. What passes through that holes is the olfactory nerve. Now I'm going to go over the suture. This is the corona. This is the corona right here, the corona suture right here. And this is the sagittal right here. And this is the lambdoid suture right here. And this is the squamous suture right here. I brought my skeleton up because I'm going to be going over the facial bone. I'm going to go over them detailed. This is the maxilla right here, and this is the alveolar process right here, and this is the nose right here, right here, and this is the zygomatic bone right here. What are the two bones found on the zygomatic arc? The zygomatic arc, the two bones found in the zygomatic arc is the zygomatic process of the temporal bone and the temporal process of the zygomatic bone. And this is the ethmoid. The ethmoid is right here inside the eye, and the vomer. This is the vomer right here. And what two bones are found in the nosal spectrum? The vomer and the maxillar bone are found in the nosal spectrum. And this is the inferior nasal concha is found inside the nose right here. What does this bone do? Is the bony structure by itself. The mandible is right here, and the mandible angle is right here where I'm pointing out, and the ramus is right here, and the mandibular condyle is right here, and the mandibular notch right here, and the corondile process right here. I turned my skeleton, turn my skeleton to the back so I could show you. This is the vertebral column right here, and I'm going to go over it in detail. The first cervical is the 1 to 12. The cervical is the first 7 cervical is 1 to 12. The thoracic is the thoracic, and there's the lumbar. The lumbar is 1 to 5, and this is the sacra down here, and the cervical vertebrates state how many cervical vertebrates we have. The cervical vertebrate is 7. There's 7 cervical vertebrates, and this is the atlas right here. And what does this bone articulate with? What does this bone articulate with from the superior? The articulation with rounded condyles that project from the anterior aspect of the occipital bone. What is unique about the transverse process of the cervical vertebrate compared to the thoracic and lumbar vertebrate? A projection known as the bifid spinous process. I'm going to go over the vertebral column again because I forgot to mention some things. I'm sorry about that. The first 1 to 7 is the cervical column, and the second 1 to 12 is the thoracic column, and the third 1 to 1 to 5th is the lumbar column, and this is the sacra down here, right here. And which which two are primary and which two are secondary. The thoracic and sacral are the primary, and the cervical and the lumbar are the secondary. And the cervical vertebrate is the first 1 to 7. And this is the atlas right here. Right here. And what does this bone articulate with the form, which forms the superior? It articulates rounded condyle that projects from the interior aspect of the occipital bone. What is unique about the transversal process of all cervical vertebrates compared to those of the thoracic and lumbar vertebrate? What is unique is a projection known as the bifid spinous process. I'm going to go over the thoracic vertebrate. The thoracic vertebrate is the second 1 to 12, right here. And the spinous process, this is the spinous process right here. And the transversal process, this is the transversal process right here, where I'm pointing at. And the vertebral foramen is right here. What passes through this foramen? A number of structures passes through the foramen. The body of the centrum is right here, right here, right here. And the position of the vertebral disc, I'm going to turn my skeleton. This is the position of the vertebral disc right here. And the lumbar vertebrate, I'm turning my skeleton so you can see the lumbar vertebrate. The lumbar vertebrate is the third 1 to 5, third 1 to 5th, right here. And the sacrum, this is the sacrum right here. How many vertebrates fuse to form this bone? 5 fused vertebrates. And this is the calculus right here. I'm going to go over the sternum. This is the sternum right here. This is the sternum. And the mandibular is right here. And the body is right here. And the xiphoid process, this is the xiphoid process. And this is the jugular notch. The jugular notch is right here. Then I'm going to go over the rib. The first 1 to 7 is the true rib. And the second 8 to 12 is the first rib. And this is the floating rib right here. It's by itself, right here. These two right here. And this is the head of the rib right here. And this is the neck, and this is the tubercle right here. Explain how the ribs articulate with vertebrates. The first rib articulates solely with the first thoracic vertebrate.